Meet Ted Bundy, a law student, volunteer, and the alleged inventor of Netflix and chill, although his dates never got to the Netflix part. Born in 1946, Ted Bundy seemed like an average kid, but he was actually a master manipulator in training. It's rumored his first words were, "Trust me." He was raised by his grandparents and was told his mom was his sister, a family secret messier than a ketchup-stained resume. In the 70s, Bundy was a law student, a volunteer crisis hotline guru, and dating multiple women while secretly murdering others. He was like a Disney prince, if Disney princes drove a VW Beetle and collected victim souvenirs. His charm was so potent it could have sold sunscreen in a blizzard. He had a smile that blinded people to the fact that he was a monster. He murdered at least 30 women, using fake casts or puppy dog eyes to lure them. Bundy's signature move was the fake injury, using a broken arm or a limp to get women to help him carry his books. Once they got close, he would knock them out and stuff them into his Beetle. That car was a murder mobile with terrible mileage. He also revisited crime scenes to style his victims' hair. In 1977, he escaped from a Colorado jail twice, first by starving himself to squeeze through a ceiling gap, and then by jumping out of a library window. After that, he had a 6-week crime spree in Florida. When he was captured, Bundy decided to represent himself in court. He flirted with judges, quoted poetry, and even proposed to his girlfriend mid-trial, who said no. The jury found him guilty, and his response was, "I'll see you in hell." On January 24, 1989, Bundy was executed in the electric chair. His final meal was a medium-rare steak. Crowds partied outside the prison like it was New Year's Eve. The moral of the story is, don't be a Bundy. Stay in school, don't murder people, and always vet your Tinder date. Talk about taking class clown to a horrifying new level. While most party clowns leave behind balloon animals and happy memories, John Wayne Gacy left behind something far more sinister under his floorboards. This is one birthday party entertainer whose guest appearances turned into permanent disappearing acts. Born on March 17, 1942, in Chicago, Illinois, Gacy grew up in a middle-class family with an abusive father. Despite his troubled childhood, he became a successful businessman in his community. He owned several KFC franchises, was active in local politics, and even served as a Democratic precinct captain. Gacy's public persona included performing as Pogo the Clown at children's parties and charitable events. He was known for his community involvement and would often host large neighborhood parties. This outer shell of respectability made his crimes even more shocking when they came to light. Between 1972 and 1978, Gacy lured young men and teenage boys to his house at 8213 West Somerdale Avenue. Many of his victims were employees of his construction business, P.A.D.M. contractors. Others were picked up from Chicago's Greyhound bus station or simply off the streets. His typical method involved offering his victims construction work, then tricking them into being handcuffed as part of a magic trick. Once he had his victims restrained, Gacy would torture and strangle them. He buried 26 of his victims in the crawl space beneath his house, 3 others elsewhere on his property, and 4 were dumped in nearby rivers. The smell of decomposition became so bad that he tried explaining it away to visitors as moisture buildup in the crawl space. His crimes began to unravel in December 1978, when 15-year-old Robert Peace disappeared after telling his mother he was going to discuss a potential construction job with Gacy. This led police to investigate Gacy's background, discovering his prior conviction for sexually assaulting a teenage boy in Iowa. When they finally searched under his house, they discovered the horrifying truth buried in the soil. The excavation of Gacy's property became one of the grimmest crime scenes in American history. Gacy was arrested and eventually confessed to 33 murders. During his trial, he tried to plead not guilty by reason of insanity, but the jury didn't buy it. He was convicted of all 33 murders on March 13, 1980, and sentenced to death for his crimes. He spent 14 years on death row, during which time he painted clown portraits and gave interviews, showing little remorse for his actions. On May 10, 1994, Gacy was executed by lethal injection at Stateville Correctional Center. The clown's final performance was a deadly serious affair, and the only time his audience was truly happy to see the show end. Meet Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee Mixer, a real catch if you were into being caught. Born in 1960, Jeff was a seemingly normal kid, always hanging around. Little did people know, he had a killer sense of interior design, if you consider human remains decor. Word is, raised in the suburbs, young Jeff was told to bone up on his studies, but he took that a little too literally. Fast forward to the 80s, Dahmer was trying to find his place in the world. He was working at a chocolate factory, a place where he could indulge in sweet treats, and, well, other things too. It seems he had a real taste for the unusual. He murdered at least 17 men, using drinks that were to die for. Dahmer's signature move? The come back to my place con. One minute you're having a drink, the next minute you're part of his collection. He was like a bad house guest, never leaving or cleaning up. And captured, finally, Dahmer tried to claim insanity. Because nothing says not guilty like having a freezer full of body parts. Dahmer got his just desserts, not the kind he was used to. He was beaten to death in prison. Moral of the story? Don't go to someone's place if they have a lot of skeletons in their closet or freezer.